Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome to my show. I'm so excited today. I get to talk to one of my personal heroes, Michael Benner. But let me just talk about myself for a minute, selfishly. So the purpose of my show, as you probably just heard on my ad, is awakening your, and actually it's the purpose of my classes, it's the purpose of everything I do in life, is awakening your empowered, intuitive, consciously aware self. I've been doing this for 40 years and it's just finding what's stopping you. Where are the origins of what's getting in the way of that awareness? And I just think it's so appropriate that Michael suggested that we talk about awareness on today's show, because I don't think there's anything that's more important. In fact, I have kind of a mixed feeling about it, because I remember when I first started getting aware, so to speak, when I started to wake up, I used to go to bed at night and just pray for numbness. I don't want to know. I don't want to feel all of this stuff. I don't want to understand all of this stuff. And of course, the universe said, no, we're not going to listen to that. But I also realized, looking back on my life, how unconscious or unaware I was and how sad that is. It's like I can't remember what it was like to have a baby. It's like, where was I? I was so wrapped up in fear and unconsciousness that I couldn't even experience having this amazing life sitting in my lap. So that's my duality about awareness. And we'll talk about some of that stuff. But let me introduce Michael. I love introducing Michael because he's so amazing. During his initial career as a broadcast journalist in LA, he brought human potential and enlightenment over radio waves. And now how amazing is that? He was fascinated by the emerging fields of emotional intelligence and relationship management. And then he kind of just let the radio career become sort of like a hobby. And he focused all of his time on personal development strategies, which is a program that addresses personal problems in the workplace, poor self-awareness, lack of empathy, communication, motivation, leadership skills, all of that stuff. And he designed a few programs, one of them called Fearless Intelligence. Another one was called Feeling Like Yourself, and the other one was called Smarter Than You Think. And he would teach mindfulness, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, critical thinking. And he would teach this to individuals, businesses, groups, executives. And then he wrote an amazing book called Fearless Intelligence, The Extraordinary Wisdom of Awareness. So I think that's just so wonderful. And I hear that he's working on another one, so we'll have to ask him about that too. So he is, again, one of my heroes. I've interviewed him so many times. It's just amazing to have you here, Michael. Welcome to my show.
Well, good morning. Good morning, Royce, and thanks for having me. I always look forward to being interviewed by you. It's so much fun.
Oh, good. That's good because it is fun for me too. So, anyway, so we decided we're going to talk about awareness, and I want to say that Michael suggested that it's both situational awareness as well as self-awareness. And like I was saying before, I think that living without awareness is like walking around in a daze. And I think it's probably one of the saddest things in the world to look back on your life and think, where was I? I think that's tragic. What do you think about that?
I tell a story in my book, Royce, about a true story of my wife and I, Doreen, were driving in the west side of Los Angeles one day and decided we needed a coffee. And I said, well, I know a Starbucks up on the Sunset Strip that's got parking.
How unusual.
That's always a deal maker. It has
Yeah.
parking. We zoomed up La Cienega and jumped into the Starbucks and got our coffee. And I lingered at the pastry case a little too long and ended up buying one of those highly caloric espresso brownies
Oh my gosh.
that they have. And I knew I shouldn't, they're full of sugar, but
And
I,
caffeine,
you
probably.
know how we rationalize such things.
Yeah.
And so off we go down the Sunset Strip. Hadn't been there in a while, so we're looking at the giant electronic billboards, and oh, this cafe has been replaced by that cafe, and we're looking at the people parading up and down the sidewalks and having a great old time. And we reached the end of the strip, and we're about to turn left on Crescent Heights and go through the valley. And I reach for my brownie, and it's not there.
Oh no.
And I thought, well, I don't have a dog in the car. I had a dog, but not in the car. I can't blame the dog. And I knew Doreen hadn't eaten it because she would have bought one if she'd wanted one. She knew better. And then I turned my attention to my palate, and there was this faint flavor of chocolate. And I realized I'd ate the whole brownie and missed it,
Oh my gosh.
completely unaware.
Wow.
But that wasn't the end of it. I began to think, oh my God, what if I'm 85, 90 years old, hopefully, but I'm living, maybe in a senior citizen assisted living home or something. And I reflect on my life and realize I forgot to pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I began to consider how much of my life was I missing by not paying attention, by really multitasking and being so busy, so stressed, so anxious, so fearful, um, so worried about the future and concerned about the regrets from my past, that the present was not that present.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that and a few similar incidents has step by step made me more and more aware of the importance of being aware, of noticing what we notice mindfully. Mindfulness is a nice word for this. And practicing mindfulness in meditation. And then, of course, when you open your eyes and move out into the world to be mindful, to be in the present moment with as little judgment as possible,
Yeah.
because that prejudices you. And just to, I won't say live for the moment, but live in the moment.
Gigi.
And I can draw upon my memories and I can plan my future, but I'm still living in the moment. That's everything.
Yeah.
As you know, awareness is another word for consciousness,
Yes.
and it's fundamental to existence.
Yeah. So with all of that in mind, I always like to start with defining things. It kind of helps focus. So how would you define awareness? What does it mean?
Awareness, let me first of all just say the synonyms for awareness, I believe, are consciousness. And in the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, consciousness is called love.
Hmm.
And love is the awareness that everything is connected to everything else, that there's only one life, that it manifests as a multiplicity in material form, physical form. This is not that, and my body is not your body, and my car is not somebody else's car. We live in a world of material form, but from an energy point of view or a spiritual point of view, it's a field. It's all electromagnetic energy. It's just physical objects don't have edges. They're clouds of particles. They appear to have edges. They appear to be solid. They're not. The molecules, there's as much space in a molecule or between the molecules as there is between the planets in our solar system.
Yeah.
It's 99% empty and it's all impermanent. So it's relatively true. The material world is a relative truth. But what's fundamental to that is consciousness or awareness or love, out of which all of this manifests.
Mm-hmm.
The material world, the mind, our thoughts, our memory, our imagination, our emotional feelings, our physical sensations, and our physical senses are all manifestations of awareness. Without awareness, nothing exists.
That's true. That's true. Good definition. I like that. So I know both of us teach awareness in different ways. How do you teach awareness besides having those moments where you realize you already ate the brownie? How do you how are there techniques that you use with
Yeah,
people? Or,
yeah.
I don't even know, can it really be taught or just awakened? What do you do with that?
Well, it's a matter of becoming more aware. We're obviously aware, right?
Yeah.
Although some days we're more aware than others. I was talking in one of my classes the other day with a Zoom group that I have, and we were describing our common experiences of from time to time driving an automobile from place to place. And when you arrive, you have little or no memory of having made the drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, how did I get here? I must have stopped at the stop signs and honored the red light and made left turns through the intersection. But I did that on some kind of robotic autopilot where I was minimally conscious.
Hmm.
We all know the feeling of walking into a room to get something and suddenly you're standing there with a blank mind going, what what did I come in here for? Right? What what
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what was it I came here for?
Yes.
And it takes you a while to remember. Or we don't know where our car keys are in the morning as we rush out the door.
Yeah.
So we're all conscious, but to varying degrees. And then if you average your level of consciousness, that varies between individuals. Some people are very devoted to being present, especially for other people. To be a good listener, for example, is to be a good friend.
Yeah.
To be empathetic and compassionate is a matter of consciousness. There are values that are associated with consciousness or awareness. So as we elevate our consciousness and become more and more aware, our values are refined. We become more ethical. Excuse me a second here. More ethical, more moral. Our priorities become refined. So, to answer the question now, how do you teach it? How do you help people elevate or expand their awareness? It's profound relaxation. It's very deep relaxation. And that's why meditation or discovering the altered states associated with various levels, brainwave states, various levels of deep relaxation, that's what expands awareness. Just as stress and tension, fear and anxiety reduces awareness and makes us foolish and even stupid. Don't mean to insult anybody, but we make mistakes, we miss opportunities, we have difficulty understanding, we're less likely to get insights and recognize solutions that are right in front of us. Stress and anxiety, fear, whatever you call it, it's all the same thing to me.
Yeah.
It shatters awareness. It just destroys it. It degrades it severely. So the antidote is to pay attention, be more aware, and that's a practice.
I was just going to say it is a practice. I just to add my own experience, we moved up to the mountains about 9 years ago. And when we moved up here, I would look around and I would be in awe. Oh my God, there's trees and there's snow and there's no traffic and it's quiet. And I mean, I was always in that state. And then as the years went by, I started to not notice the trees and, all of that stuff. So I have a personal practice that I do as I'm driving anywhere up here. I consciously say to myself, notice everything. And I find myself going, oh my God, I never noticed that tree before, or I never noticed that the road dips over here. So it's things like that when you make a commitment to do that, it really makes a difference.
There's also something about rural areas, nature and wildlife that makes us automatically more relaxed and therefore more conscious.
Yeah,
And you feel that connection.
it's true.
I mean, hugging a tree is a real thing. Climbing a tree. There's a great John Muir story about he wanted he was up in Yosemite. This was in the late 1800s, of course, and there was a storm coming up, and he wanted to really experience it like he had never experienced a storm before. It looked to him magnificent on the horizon. And so he climbed the tallest tree in the area and tied himself into the top of that tree with a rope.
Wow.
and stayed up there swaying. You can imagine the wind blowing the top of the tree 10 feet, 15 feet this way and then back again, like a roller coaster ride, a 19th century Knott's Berry Farm,
Wow.
Six Flags or something. But he just wanted to live fully and immerse himself in that experience. Maybe a little too much for most of us, but
Yeah.
I always envied that, if I could go into nature and hike and backpack. I did a lot of that when I was younger. And I always felt much more connected and much more aware in nature. And then I'd come back into the city and it would just be chaotic and frenetic and artificial. And it was just so obvious to me on a number of levels. So I think that's why we're so discontent, those of us who live in big cities. It's just not natural. It's just too stressful and shatters awareness.
Yeah, I can never imagine moving back to the big city after living here for 9 years. Yeah.
No, me too. We're in the desert. We're We're out about 25 miles east of Palm Springs, a
Oh,
little
wow.
south. And I have open desert behind me and east of me all the way
Wow.
forever. It's open desert and mountains. And we lived in Hawaii for 5 years, and we like it better in the desert than in paradise.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you were talking about the John Muir hanging from a tree, I was thinking how sad it is that we sometimes need that much drama and intensity for us to be aware. It's like it's really nice living in the forest and the desert, but we need to have our face plowed into something dramatic to bring us into full awareness sometimes.
Yeah. The question is how.
Yeah.
That's why people come to teachers like us. The tragedy is that they wait so long and suffer so much
Yeah.
and then really bottom out. And I'm continually thinking to myself, why did you wait so long? Especially couples counseling.
Yeah.
Why did you wait till you were at each other's throats and not speaking to each other and sleeping in different bedrooms? Why did you wait so long?
Yeah.
And it's scary. The irony of fear is that in order to release it, you have to move through it. The only way out is through.
Yes.
Which means we have to face our fear, which is frightening. to the important nugget in my book, Fearless Intelligence, is that fear has nothing to do with danger. Whether we call it anxiety or stress, worry, doubt, nervousness, from panic and horror and terror to mild apprehension and everything in between. It's about us. As you said at the top of the show today, there is such a thing as situational awareness, and we need to be more aware of the world around us. But the real anxiety and fear that destroys awareness and then promotes more fear. So you see the vicious cycle here. Fear destroys understanding, which makes us more afraid, which makes it more difficult to understand and makes it more afraid. And it's just like feedback loop. It's a vicious cycle, a downward spiral.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it takes a certain amount of courage to face your fear and discover the self-awareness at the core. That's what, to my mind, Royce, the center of our fear and our stress and our anxiety is not understanding ourselves.
Yes.
So fear is not about danger. It's about what we don't know, whether it's dangerous or not. And usually it's not dangerous. You say to somebody, what are you worried? What are you so worried about? Why are you stressing out? And they say, I don't know. Well, that's the point. That's what fear is. It's rarely dangerous. So anything new and unknown, or anything old and never understood, it's all going to be frightening. And to know thyself, perhaps the greatest admonition of all times, the ancient Greeks, inscribed over the oracle to Apollo at Delphi, know thyself.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's terrifying to most people.
Yeah. Well, it goes hand in hand because I know that the more people know who they really are, the more aware they are of everything, especially who everyone else is. So, if we're afraid of knowing ourselves, we're never going to know others. We're never going to know the world.
That's
So
exactly right.
definitely goes hand in hand. Yeah.
If you don't know yourself, you can't recognize that in others. If you don't love, trust, and respect yourself, then you've limited the amount of love, trust, and respect you have for others.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Feeling disrespected is such a big thing for so many people. I often wonder why they don't at some point realize that if they had self-respect, nobody could disrespect you.
Yeah.
I mean, they could try, they could insult you, but you'd be bulletproof if you had self-respect. If you knew the truth about yourself and someone insults you, you just stand there calmly with a little smile on your face saying, well, that's really not true. And
Or having a hard day.
yeah, exactly. Have some compassion for why they need to try to bring you down. That's pretty
Yeah.
pathetic.
Yeah. And I find, I talk about whatever we experience that pushes our buttons or triggers us in some way is showing us a mirror of something that we're in denial of about ourselves. So they're actually giving you a gift of awareness. So, thank them. If it pushes a button, thank them.
Yeah, your work with mirroring, I think, is very powerful.
Yeah.
A very powerful allegory. I often say that what we perceive as reality in the material world is our perception of the reflection of our projection.
Yes, I like that. Nice little poem. Yeah.
What we're perceiving is a reflection of what we're projecting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to take responsibility for that means to abandon blame.
Yeah.
To abandon blame of others, to abandon self-blame, just completely eliminate it from your mindset. Nobody is to blame. Things don't happen to us, things happen, and sometimes we're involved. But because it rained on your picnic, you can't take that personally and get angry at the weatherman. It just rained. It's a good thing that
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry it wrecked your picnic, but it didn't happen to you. It just happened. There
Yeah.
is real liberation in that kind of understanding.
But it takes a lot of self-awareness, to reach that point. I mean, when I talk about mirroring to people, they just go, "Oh, no, I don't want to see that Trump is mirroring something to me. I don't want to know that about myself." So it's very difficult for people to do that. So, yeah.
Oh, and yet people are so magnificent,
Yeah.
so majestic, so beautiful, so loving. They are love. People are love. Love
Yeah.
is, again, love is consciousness, it's awareness, it's fundamental to existence. So the one life, God got us all that is, the prime mover, the first cause, the absolute, whatever you want to call it, the creator, the source. It's an energy that manifests as material form.
Yeah.
It manifests as mind, our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations and physical senses. Royce, it's not that difficult to comprehend if you look at it in that order from the one to the many, instead of thinking of yourself as an individual trying to comprehend God. If you look at it the other way around, you're more likely, I think, to see spirit and matter, or Einstein would call it, a physicist would call it energy and mass. But a spiritually oriented metaphysician, for example, or a mystic, calls it spirit and matter. And as spirit extends itself into matter, it's just changing state. Very much like water vapor can precipitate into a liquid and then freeze as solid ice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's still water. The ice is very different than a cloud. But the water vapor, the humidity, the water vapor that forms into a cloud, that forms into rain and rivers and lakes, and then sometimes freezes. Those are just different states of the same thing. And so the material world is just spirit in a solid state. That's all.
Yeah.
But the thing is, energy cannot be destroyed nor created. That's basic physics. Energy can't be created nor destroyed. And yet look at the material world. It's all impermanent. Everything about it is impermanent. Everything rusts, all the objects rust and rot and decay. Nothing lasts. Even our thoughts fade, our memories fade, our emotions fade. Here's a big one. Our sense of satisfaction, fulfillment, and contentment does not last. That's very frustrating until you understand it, the inherent impermanence of the physical world. This thing that we've got to have, that new car, that trophy wife, that, I don't know, whatever it may be, that piece of jewelry or that artwork or those golf clubs, whatever. Oh, and you've just got to have it. And then you get it and you're happy for a while. But then the desire comes in. There's a hunger, a longing, a sense of incompleteness that persists. And so we end up in this hamster cage, this rat race, this treadmill of always chasing happiness in the material world.
Yeah.
And it's there, but it just doesn't last. It's impermanent.
Yeah.
What does last? The energy behind it. The spiritual world is real. The spirit is substantial as energy. That cannot be created or destroyed. It's pretty obvious if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Right?
So we need to take a break. I don't know if I cut you off mid-sentence, but hold that thought. Okay. So I'm chatting with Michael Benner, the amazing Michael Benner, and we'll be right back. We're talking about awareness today.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. I'm talking with Michael Benner about awareness, and I was given a question by one of my students, actually, because I told him I was talking to Michael Benner, and you're one of his heroes as well. So this is the question that he posed. He said, with all that's going on in the world today, with all the polarizing issues, domestically, internationally, how can we use awareness in our dialoguing with others so that there's an atmosphere of understanding and conflict resolution. Is there something that you would recommend to do about that? Because it's crazy out there lately. It really is.
Well, books could be written and have been. I would say 2 words: be kind.
Mm.
After that, as you might imagine, be tolerant, patient, considerate, loving, compassionate, empathetic, curious, interested,
Mm.
fascinated. Compassion is such an important concept and not well understood. It is, it goes beyond empathy to enduring an awareness of the suffering of others, particularly those who seem to oppose you. This is Christ's message of love your enemy. Why in the world would you want to love somebody who would just as soon kill you and your whole family, or steal your TV, or whatever people steal these days? I think to understand that we all suffer, whether you're a Christian and you're impressed by Christ on the cross, the word excruciating comes from crucified or crucifix.
Oh, wonderful. I never knew that. That's interesting. Yeah.
Or the first noble truth of Buddhism. The first noble truth of this whole philosophy of 2,500-year-old philosophy of Buddhism. Life is suffering. You will know suffering. That's a hell of a place to begin a philosophy. Right. And so we try to avoid that suffering. We spend our lives seeking to be happy and minimize the suffering that we have to go through. And to a large extent, that's what Buddhism is, for example. But I think it's also found in all religions, all philosophies, and most lifestyles. It's just a matter of how aware are we of ways to do that. Let's talk about a good place to begin. I talked about abandoning blame a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a strong believer that emotional intelligence is a portal to spiritual intelligence.
I agree.
That emotional love is constitutes the first steps on the path to spiritual love.
Yes.
And most of us blame others. We hold others responsible for our negative feelings. We take credit for the positive ones. I did that. I made myself happy. Sometimes it's like, thank you. You made me very happy. I appreciate that. But our negative feelings are hurt feelings because of this brain structure called the amygdala, this cluster of neurons that is in charge of the fight or flight response. We're very defensive, trying to survive here. And so if somebody says something hurtful, whether deliberate or not, whether intentioned or not, something insulting, something that irritates or frustrates, we obsess on understanding them. Why would they do that? What kind of person would talk to me that way? Well, then we gossip with each other about this person and that person. And what kind of, again, what kind of person they must be to make me feel this way?
Yeah.
Well, as you know, are a response. Feelings are I mean, what the other person says or does is a stimulus. But the feeling that we feel is our response. And so if we want to understand the meaning or significance of a feeling, we have to look within, take responsibility, accountability, ownership for the feeling as our unique response. If
Mhm.
I said the same insulting thing to 10 people, I would generate 10 very different responses.
Oh, yeah.
To know that your feelings are your feelings, as silly as that sounds, most people do not have that available to them, that understanding. They didn't get the memo, they haven't got the message. Even the phrase emotional intelligence in psychology is only about 25 years old.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, it doesn't, we didn't study emotions in psychology because, well, I think because we consider feelings when they're not managed and they get out of control, whether it's like hysterical happiness or more commonly anger and fear and hatred and those types of debilitating feelings, they tend to overwhelm or hijack intelligence, logic, creativity, insight, and understanding. So we see negative, we don't see intelligence and emotions, just the opposite. You know, hey, Michael, you talk about emotional intelligence, but when I get overly emotional, I get stupid.
Yeah.
I make mistakes. I fail to understand. I do things that I regret. What is this emotional intelligence? Well, it begins with self-awareness. This is my feeling. And then secondly, self-management. And again, that requires deep relaxation, expanded awareness, and elevated perspective, a view from 30,000 feet that says, oh, look at me. Why am I triggered? That's a word you use a lot in your work. Why am I triggered? How can I change the situation so I don't get triggered so easily and then freak out and regret what I say and do? The third element of emotional intelligence, again, self-awareness, self-management. Then we go to the interpersonal, which is empathy and compassion and understanding other people as a result of understanding yourself emotionally, understanding what they're going through emotionally. And then the fourth is social management, which is leadership, really. Having such a developed level of self-awareness and emotional management that you understand others and then can lead them back into peace and harmony and love and understanding for the greater good where everybody wins. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we just abandon this either or, win or lose model for a win-win model
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because the more conscious and aware you become, the more you understand that that's the order of things.
Mm-hmm.
That's what drives evolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we're here, is to grow and evolve and become more conscious and more aware of who we are. Why would the one create the many? Why would the absolute manifest itself as the multiplicity of forms, but to know its many qualities?
Mm.
That's what we are. And that's what this coffee cup is. That's what this microphone is. That's what everything seemingly solid in the material world is. A manifestation of the one thing, seeking to know its many qualities. And the purpose of life is to evolve, to grow, to develop that understanding. And lo and behold, here comes happiness and peace and joy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's our purpose in terms of manifesting what's around us as well, to learn more about ourselves. So
That's
yeah,
right.
all the same.
Exactly.
So this might be a little bit, I've got 2 more questions. We're running out of time. I have actually 20 more questions, but I'm getting them down to 2. The first one is something that I noticed. I was leading an intern group, people that wanted to learn how to teach the stuff that I teach. And we were on a retreat, and this was in the very beginning of this program. And somebody wanted to teach a class the way that I teach a class. And so she wanted me to demonstrate it. And it was really interesting to me because as I was doing that, all the things that I just do naturally, I had to really be aware of what I was doing, how I was doing it, what was the order of things, what were my facial expressions. And it became this definitely a self-awareness exercise for me, just trying to teach somebody else to be aware. Do you find that that happens to you?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. No matter how much teaching I do, I'm the student.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
A good teacher is always a student.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not going to, let's be honest, we're not going to kill the ego. The ego is not going to die. And this goal in some philosophies, so-called neo-Advaita, for example, this idea that the material world is Maya, it's a total illusion. That's true enough, but it's a very important illusion. And it's relatively real. There is in Eastern philosophy in particular, but also elsewhere, but it really comes from Eastern philosophy, the two-truth doctrine, which is there is an absolute truth above and free of form, and then the material world is relatively true, but both are true. And there is danger in the neo-Advaita view that God or Brahman is the only reality. This is all a dream. Therefore, nothing really matters. Global warming, so what? We're a speck of dust in the universe. It doesn't matter if we live or die. And if people suffer, well, that's their karma. Whoa, this is dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
This is not Advaita Vedanta. This is not monism. This is not a balanced view. As we've already said, the material world is impermanent. So how true could it be if it doesn't last? If everything fades and dies, and even our desires cannot be fulfilled for long. But it's true enough. The Dalai Lama wears a watch. He knows time is an illusion. But he's got an appointment at 3:00, right? So both things are true. And I think it's really a trap that beginners in the field, students so-called, need to watch out for. As much value as there is in understanding that ultimately all we have to do is be and not do. We're not cogs in a machine, consumers, earning and spending and producing and consuming. There's much more to it than that. And it's helping other people, Royce. It's just being of service. We develop ourselves for the purpose of helping other people develop ourselves, because all of us are part of one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. And I think I've learned more about myself by teaching others than I've ever learned in any other way. So the next thing I wanted to just kind of share as we get closer to running out of time, I, excuse me, I'm a Beatles fanatic, as maybe you are as well. And somebody told me about a presentation that a gentleman was making where he was going to talk about the Beatles. So I went online and I listened to this presentation. And this man was a former classically trained musician. And he said once he heard the Beatles, he shifted into becoming a Beatles maniac. And so he started playing little snippets of Beatles music. And he explained each of these snippets in terms of his classical training. And he said, now listen to this. This is a direct whatever from Mozart or whatever. And he said that they did this naturally. And I'm listening to this and it opened my horizon about the Beatles from being, wow, it's just they're geniuses and they're great and I love their music and their lyrics are amazing and they're revolutionary and all that, into, oh my God, look what they did that I never noticed. So I found myself now listening to Beatles music in a whole different way. And I'm not sure I like it because it's gone from this joyous experience into trying to peg those moments that he was pointing out. And it's become like this little mind thing instead of just a wow experience. You know what I mean?
You mean you feel that you have lost something because you've intellectualized what was
Yes,
previously an emotional experience?
exactly. And could there be too much awareness in that way?
Well, awareness embraces everything. So you're comparing, if I understand you, mental awareness to emotional awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the mind includes thoughts, and we could do a whole show on thoughts, task-related thoughts, task-unrelated thoughts, intrusive thoughts, the monkey mind, very different from purposeful thinking. Then there's logic, creativity, intuition, inspiration, imagination, instinct. There's a lot to it. Then we have the emotional intelligence we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are physical sensations. When you hear the Beatles music, first time you listen to Sgt. Pepper, it was holy cow. I remember 1968. There were physical sensations in my body.
Yeah.
In addition to that, our sense and sensation, all of the physical senses, the hearing of it, the viewing the record album, looking at the cover and reading the liner notes and holding the album in your hand and putting the tone arm of the record player down, all of that.
Yeah.
And all of this is mind. Awareness stands behind consciousness, and awareness stands behind all of that,
Yeah.
or above all of that. It's metacognition. Okay. It is the capacity to think, to feel emotionally, to feel physically, and to experience reality, material reality, through all of these physical senses.
Yeah.
All of that requires awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could step back in your concern and say, well, I'm getting out of balance here by intellectualizing and being too discerning mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could better integrate that with the original joy and passions and love of just what this music does to me and for me. And music is celestial. Music is a magical thing. Music is love.
Yeah.
And music connects us to each other the way humor does and the way love does. And, few people ask for definitions of love, but if you were to ask me, I would say, well, many things, but simply love is the collapsing of otherness, separateness, objectness, and selfness.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, full acceptance of self and others. Yep.
Love is the awareness, the consciousness that there's only one of us here.
Right. We are running out of time.
Another
Time is
week.
an illusion, right? But we
Yeah.
are definitely running out of time. Tell people how to reach you and what is available to them from you recently. And
Well, I've got some very exciting online courses for one-on-one training and counseling. I do both for singles and couples. My primary program, signature program, is called Fly, Feeling Like Yourself. And it's
love
an
that.
emotional intelligence training that launches you into spiritual growth and a beautiful understanding of who you truly, truly are. Not that I explain it to you, I just train you with tools and techniques that you can use for the rest of your life and continually understand yourself better and better. I have a couple of openings in a Saturday Zoom salon of 12 people. We have 9 or 10 now, and that's very affordable, much more affordable than the one-on-one work. That's just $25, and people can email me if they want to know more about that.
What is
My
your
email is my initials at my name, so mb@michaelbenner.com.
Great. Thank
And
you.
my website, primary website, as you might expect, michaelbenner.com.
Thank you so much, michaelbenner.com.
Thank
So
you.
good to be with you. And anybody who's interested in my courses, reach out to me, roycemorales.com. Thank you. And I look forward to our next chat.
Oh, thank you. Namaste.